Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we'll be building a Freecodecamp survey form. Now, this is one of the certification projects on Freecodecamp website. You can access this form on freecodecamp.com website under responsive web design, or I'll be leaving the link on the description below for you to be able to access this form. Now, before building any project, it is good to know how you can structure your HTML so that building your CSS will be easier. If we look at this, we have an image background and we have an H1 element, the P element, and the form together with all the elements inside it. Now, let's start building this form. Open your VS Code. In your VS Code, in our VS Code, let us create a new file called index.html. And then let's create another file called style.css. Mm. So inside our index.html, we are going to be using the embed code. Hold your shift key, exclamation, and then hit enter. So we'll name our title Freecodecamp survey form. So inside the body, we'll have a div class of container. Be wrapping everything inside the container. And then we have I'll be wrapping this H1 and P element inside the header element. So I'll use header. Inside the header, I have the H1, which is free code. And then the H1 will have an ID of title. And this header, let's give it a class of center text. After that, we have our P element with an ID of description. Then we have our text. If you look at this text is italicized, so we are going to be using the emphasis to we're going to be wrapping it inside emphasis. So I will wrap it inside emphasis, which is em. Then thank you for taking the time to help us improve the platform. So we are finished our header side. So let's start building a form. So this is the form element. So we have the form. This action, I'm not directing it anywhere, so I'll be using the hashtag. And the form has an ID of survey form. Inside our form, Inside our form, if you look here, I'll be wrapping both the name and the inputs in the div with the class of form group. So everything inside here will be inside div element. So I will create a div with the class of form group. So inside our div, we have the label for name, and then we have an ID of name label for name. And after that, we have our input element, our input type. The first one is text, the ID is name. Make sure that the ID and the label for the name that you put for label for and the ID is the same. So we have the name as our name. And let's give it a class of form control. Then we have the placeholder. Placeholder is this text inside, enter your name. That's what is called placeholder. So placeholder, we have enter your name. So I'll be putting required here so that if a user didn't put in their name, it's the required attributes will pop up. We have finished the name attribute. Now let me duplicate this and use it for email and age. Now the second one is label for email. Then email label. And the input type is email. The ID is email. The name is email. And it has the same class. Then the placeholder, enter your email. Then after that, we have the label for age. Our age is optional. And let's give it an ID of number label. And the input type is number. Then let's give it an ID of age. The name, number. And then for the placeholder is age. And also change year. So we have finished this part. Let's do this second part, which is the select element. Inside our select element, or you can call it a drop down. This is drop down. So inside a drop down, you have select current role, student, full-time, job, full-time learner, prefer not to say, and other. So let's build this second part. I'll also be wrapping it inside a div with a class of form group. Then inside there we have the label for, let me just give it label for row or label for drop down. Then inside this label we have, let me just copy the text. So after the label we have the select element. And the name that we'll be giving our select is drop down, and the ID of drop down. Then inside our select we have the option value. The first option, I'm not going to wrap in it the value inside anything. So the first one is select current row. Let me just copy this select, duplicate it and do the others. Control V. So the first one, I'll just give it an option value of 1. The first one is students. Then the second one, I'll give it a value of 2. The second one is full-time job. The third one, let me give it a value of 3. The third one is full-time learner. Then the fourth one is what? The fourth one, prefer not to say. Then the last one is other. Now let's look at what you have created so far. So if you want to open it, you either go here, right click, and then click on open with live server, or you can go down over at the bottom and click go live. So this is what we have created so far. This is what we have created so far. Okay, let's continue. The next thing that we'll be creating now is the radio button. So also the radio button, I'll be wrapping it inside the div element with a class of form group. So this radio button, this one I'll be using the P element. The P element. Sorry, let me give this a select. Let me give this our select a class of form control. Then I'll paste the text that I copied. Then this radio button, this is the radio button, this is the label, this is the input, but I'll be wrapping two of them inside the P element. We have our P element, then we have our label. There's no label for anything. I'll not be using label for anything since I'm wrapping it inside. Then I'll add my input. Then the input type is radio because this is a radio button. Then let's give it an ID of definitely for the first one, and then name definitely. No, name. Let me just give it name. What should I give it? Would you recommend to? Let me just give it answer. Answer. Then value. Value definitely. I'll just copy this thing. I'll just duplicate it and do the others. So the second one is maybe. And the third one is not sure. So the reason why I gave this thing the same name, like answer, so that once you click on it, you don't have to click like two times. It's not like checkbox that you have to select several options. So a radio button, you either click one. That's why I give it the same name. So let's save and look at what we have done so far. So this is the radio button. Let's continue. The next thing that we're going to, this is another drop down. So we'll be copying the one that we did before and then change the values. So let's copy the drop down that we did before. Okay, this is the drop down that we did before. I'll just copy it and use it and do this favorite on Control C, Control V. So this drop down is what is your favorite feature of Freecodecamp. So I'll just copy the text instead of typing it. So I'll add it here. Then I'll just change the label for to drop down. No. Favorites. And then the name favorites. So inside this drop down, we have select an option, challenges, projects, community, and open source. So we'll be putting it here. The first one is select an option. Then we have challenges. I'll just fill it in. So the next thing is this radio this checkbox. These are checkbox. So this checkbox will also be doing it the same way we did our radio button. So let me copy this radio button and then change some things. Then for phone group. So we'll be changing this text, which is this. I'll just copy it and put it here. Then our input type will now be checkbox, no more radio. This because this is checkbox. Then the first one is front end project. I want to copy it. Control C. It will not carry the same name as button element. Because this one you can choose as many as you like, so it won't carry the same name. Then the next one is back end projects. I'm not going to be writing all this thing. I will just choose few. I'll write this forum and then additional courses. Then I will change this one also to checkbox. Then the third one, let me use forum. Now there's something I want to teach you. If instead of typing it one, you can first of all click at the back of the text, hold your shift key, click at the back of the text, then highlight, press Ctrl D. So once you press Ctrl D, you can now type forum here, forum. Then the last one is additional courses. So let's save and look at what we have created so far. So this is it. What did I write in? Oh, checkbox. So this is it. So let's continue. The next one is this comment. Oh, there's something I want to add. Like if you look here, we can see that this thing is checked. So we need to do it also in our own. Where is that? Okay. So after this thing, you write also checked. Checked. So if you save it now, you can see our own is also checked. And also this our age, I want to add minimum and maximum there. I want to give it a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 120. Also our select, I want to also make it required. Where is our select? Yeah, I want to also make it required. Then second to the last one is the test area. That's here. I'll also be wrapping it inside a div class of form group. So inside our div, have a p element. Just copy this text. Any comment or suggestion, I'll paste it here. And then this is text area. This is text area. So inside we're having an element of text area. So name, let's give it a name of comments and then an ID of comments. And then let our column be 60, no 50, and then our row 6. And then let's give it a placeholder because this one carry placeholder. Enter your comment here. So this is our text area. So the last one is this button element. So we'll also be wrapping it inside a div class of form group. So inside we have an input type submit, and the value is also submit. So let's save and see what we have built so far. Control S then. So we are done with the HTML part. The next thing to do now is to start creating our CSS, which is the form part. But before we start creating our CSS, let's link our HTML to our CSS. So under here, after the typo, you link our CSS. Then link relationship is stylesheet, then the href is style.css, which we have created here. So let's start building our CSS. You click on this style.css. Before styling our CSS, there is something that I want to explain. The font that we are going to use for this our body is popping sans serif. So for us to use this popping sans serif, we have to go to fontsgoogle.com to copy the link. So over to my Chrome browser, I will type fonts fonts.google.com. Once you type it, fonts.google, you click enter. Then I will search for the font Poppins and then click on it. We'll be using the 400, regular 400. So I'll click on it, I'll add it. I'll also add this semi bold and add this bold. I'll add this semi bold and then I'll add this bold. After adding it, look at the link here. I'll go over here and copy the link. Copy. Then I'll go over to my index.html before the title and I'll paste it there. So this is the link. So let's get back to our CSS. So let's put our global attributes, which is star, comma, all elements before, comma, all elements after. These are called pseudo elements. Those elements that have these two columns in front, they are called pseudo elements. Then bus sizing, I have the bus sizing as border bus. Before styling your CSS, there is what is called topography in CSS. Topography is when you give a property to a parent element, it affects all the body. Let's say this is the body of the element. If I give the body a color of maybe background color of blue, it will affect all these properties, the child element inside it. But there are some elements that does not obey this topography. So let's try it. If I Let me give it a background color of a blue. Did you see? It does not affect this input elements, which is also the child. It does not affect them. This is what we call topography in CSS. There are some elements that it does not affect, like this input, the button, the text area, the select area. It does not affect them. So let me use a color of an ugly color of red. If I type something inside, you can see it's typing in black because it does not obey the topography of giving a color to a parent and it will affect the child. This is also the same thing. So for you to override this, you have to give them, you tag them like the input, the select, the text area. Let me give them a color, inherit. So if I give them a color of inherit, they will inherit the property from the parent element, so that once I type on it, as you can see, it has inherited the color property of red. So this is what is called topography in CSS. I'll remove it. I also want to add my roots, everything, all the colors I'm going to use, including the sizes I'm going to use for styling the HTML. So inside the root, I'll have my font family, as Poppins, Poppins sans serif. Then I have my color white as then I'll have my color of dark blue. I'll add all the add all the colors I'm going to use for styling the HTML. Just wait for me for a while. So I have finished putting the what we are going to use in styling our HTML, the sizes that we are going to use, the colors. Then this RGBA means red, green, blue, and this alpha is for radius. So we gave it a radius of. So this RGBA is for red, green, blue, and alpha. This alpha is for radius. So for this left accent, we give it a radius of 0.8, and for this one, we give it a radius of 0.7. The next thing, let's start styling our body. So inside our body, we'll have a font family as we copied before, Poppins. Have a font family, var. We already use the Poppins and serif, so we use var font family. As you can see, our Poppins and serif has been applied. So inside our body, we also have a background image. If you look at this, their survey form, let me check it. If you look, you see there's a background image here. So I want to use the background image, the same background image they use for this building this survey form. For me to use the same URL they use for this background image, what you need to do, you right click on the image, then click on inspect. If you did not see inspect, you can also click on developers too. So inside my inspect, let me look for this thing, the URL they use. So this is it. So this is the URL they use. So I'm gonna copy it. I'll copy it, copy. Then inside my background image, so the background image, you're going to use linear gradient 115 degree, then var. For our left accent, var, comma, that's that left accent first, and then you put comma, then right accent, sorry, var first, var, right accent, and then comma, then the URL. I'll paste it. So once I paste it, if I save, and refresh, the image will appear. Supposed to appear with. Oh, this thing is wrong. My spelling for the background image. I was wondering why it's not showing. Then if I save now, as you can see, our background image is now showing. So the next thing is to continue styling the body. Inside the body, we also have the background position. We give our background position center, background position center, and then the background size. cover. Then background repeat, because we don't want the image to keep repeating. Background repeat, no repeat. Then if you look here, you can see that this thing does not, the thing did not wrap to the extreme. So for it to wrap to the extreme, we'll give it a margin of 0. We'll give it a margin of 0. If I save, as you can see, all of them have now lapped to the extreme. Also give it a line height of 1.6. Line height, a line height 1.6, and then a font weight, give it a font weight of 400. We have done styling our body, so let's get to another thing that we'll style. Inside our CSS, we have our container, so let's style the container. Container is where this thing is inside, like all this text where it is inside, it is called container. We put it inside the container. So let's style our container. Inside our container, for a class element dot container, give it a margin of, for top and bottom 3.125 rem. This rem is for the root element, which is relative to the HTML, so it's root of em. And we'll also give left and right auto, so that everything will be centered. Then the next thing to style is our header. Let's style our header. So, but inside this header, we have a class of center text. So let's center our text. So dot center text. So center text, text align, center. So the next thing is let's style our header. So our header include this Freecodecamp, the H1 and the P element. So inside our header, let's give it a padding of 2 rem for the top, right, then bottom and left. The next thing to style is our P element, which is this one. So let me give this P element a class of description. So we have dot description. So let's give it a font size of 1 Remember that we gave this root element size describe, which is this one. So we'll be using it. So font size variable, that's that, size describe. Let's give it a margin top of 0.5 rem, then right of 3, bottom of 3 rem, and then left auto. One more thing, let's give our body a color of white, var, remember what we use, color white. So inside this input selected cell, remember what I told you about topography. There are certain elements that does not obey it. So inside this thing, let's give it a font family of inherit so that it will also have the font family as the other child element. And inside the font family, we have a font family of, oh, we have already given it a inherit. The next thing, let's style our H1 element. So inside our H1, let's give it a line height, because if you look at this H1 and the P element, the spacing between them is too much. This because of the line height that we gave to the body as 1.6. So I will reduce it in this H1. So let's give this H1 a line height of 1. As you can see, it has reduced. And let's give it a margin of 0, because this H1 has a default margin. So let's give it a margin of 0. Then let's give it a font weight of 400. We are done with this part. So let's start styling our form. If you look at our HTML, the first one is form. I'm going to be using this form attribute here. So this form, I'm going to use it form. Inside our form, let's give it a background color of var color. We use dark blue. Yes, color dark blue. Dark blue. Let's give it a width of 50%. And let's give it a padding top and bottom of 2.5 rem, and left and right of 0.625 rem. So this is the padding of top and bottom, and then left and right. That's why we have space here. So let's give it a margin of auto so that everything will be centered. So the next thing to style is our form group. If you look at our HTML, inside the form elements, we gave we wrap each of these things, both the label and the input, inside the div class of form group. So let's style it. So we have our dot form group. So inside, I want this thing to be under, so I'll be using the display of flex. So let's give it a flex direction of column. So this is, we have given it a flex direction of column. So let's give it a margin so that there will be space in between each of them. Let's give it a margin of 2 rem. So as you can see, it now has space in between each one of it. So the next one, if you look at this, our P element, the spacing is too much. The spacing is too much. So let us reduce it by targeting the form group under the P. So we use the form group P. So let's give it a line height. Let's give it a line height of 1. And let's give it a margin of 0.5 rem for top and bottom, and 0.1 rem for left and right. So I now start this thing on form group. So this is it. Another thing, let's also give this thing a form group of P. Like, let us not give the child element. Let us not give the child. So inside the styling, so the next thing is, let us give our form group of P, our form group of P not end child 1. So let's give it a margin of 0.5 rem and 0. So what this thing means is that this margin will be applied to all P element except this end child of 1. That's what this not mean. The next one is our form label, which is this one. Dot form label. Let's style it. Dot form label. Let's give it a font size of var. Remember, size label. Size label. So this is our label. We have given it a size of 1.125 rem. If you look here, you see it, 1.125 rem. So the next one is this our input, and we gave this our input a class of form control. So let's target that. Dot form control. Let's give it a display of block. Then width of 100%. Let's give it a height. I want it to expand. That's why I'm giving it a height of 2.5 rem. So if you look, it has expanded. Oh, 2.5 rem. So if you look here, it has expanded. So let's give it a padding. So there'll be space in between these things. So let's give it a padding of top of 0.375 rem and a bottom of 0.75 rem. So it has given it a spacing. So this one is for our left and right, which is 0.75. So this one is for top and bottom, which is 0.375. If you look here, I want to give it a border radius because it's too sharp. Let's give it a border radius of 0.3 rem. And let's give it a border of, because if you look here, you can see the color. So I want us to remove it so that everything will be in uniform. So our border, let's give it one piezo solid. So everything is now in uniform. Let's give it a margin top, because I want it to be a spacing between this email and the label and the input. Let there be a spacing. So let's give it a margin top of 0.4 rem. So there is spacing here. If you look at our edges here, it's sharp. But if you look at this one, you can see it has a little bit of border radius. So let's do it also in our own. So inside the form, let's give it a border radius of 0.3 rem. So our own now has a border radius. If you look at this, our radio button and our checkbox is kind of small. So, and if you look at this one, their own is bigger than our own. So let's give it a size. So let's target the radio button and the input and the checkbox. So inside the input type of radio, input type of radio. Let's also target input of checkbox. So let's give it a width of 1 rem. So if you scroll down, and let's give it a height of, let's give it a height of 1 rem. So as you can see, it has increased. So I want it to be a little bit spacing between this one. So let's target our input type checkbox. Let me just copy it from here. Control C. And let's give it a margin left, margin right, margin right of 0.5 rem. So if you look, there's a little bit of, there's a space in between it. Inside our test area, let's give it a width of 100% and let's give it a height of auto. Let's give it a margin top of bottom of 0.5 rem and then left and right of 0. And let's give it a padding of 0.375 for top and bottom and 0.75 for left and right. If you look here, you can see it has a border, so I don't want the border, so I'll be putting the border to none. The next thing to style is our submit button, so we'll be targeting the input type submit from our HTML. From our HTML, we have an input type of submit. See it here. So we'll be targeting the input type submit. Let's give it a background color of green. var Let's give it a width of 100% and then let's it will let's give it a border of none, then the color white, then font size, size label, which is 1.125 rem. Let's give it a padding of 0.75 rem. And if we save now, so this is our button. It's still showing border none. Where's my border notes? Border Sin does not have body. Okay, our border is now showing. I don't know what I did before. It was not showing, so I just put it very well, border of none. As you can see, we don't have any border here. Finally, we are done with building our form, our Freecodecamp form. So this is the form. This is the final part. So the last thing I want us to do is to look at the mobile responsiveness. So right click and click on inspect. So if I click on this smallest iPhone SE, you can see that the mobile version is really bad. So we need to work on it. So let's work on this mobile version. We're giving it a media screen and mass width. Let's give it a mass width of 440 pixels. And let's give our form a width of 95%. So if I save now, you can see it has adjusted. So let me give it a padding of, if you look here, the spacing is too much, so I want it to come up a little bit. So I will give it a padding. I'll give it a padding of 0.625 rem. And if I save and look, you see it has come up. So the next thing is our form group. The spacing here is too much, so I want it to close up a little bit. So inside our form group, let's give it a margin of 1 rem for top and bottom and 0 for left and right. So if you look here, it has closed up. The next thing is our P elements. Let's check. Okay, for our form group, which is P, which is this one and this one, I want to give it a line height of 1.4 and a margin. So let me copy this form group. And form group P. Let's give it a line height of 1.4 and finally a margin of 0.5 rem for top and bottom and 0.1 rem for left and right. If we save, so As you can see, our mobile version is looking great. It's looking nice. The mobile version is looking nice. Our desktop version is also looking nice. So this is how you build the Freecodecamp survey form. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, do hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bye for now.